Thomas?
Present.
Mr. Schaefer?
Present.
Ms. Lewis? Ms. Hammoud has also requested an excuse. Dr. Carnell has also requested an
Attendance via
excuse.
Zoom.
Oh, Ms. Hammoud is on the Zoom. And Chair Pinkham.
Ms. Hammoud here. I heard someone say. Ms. Hammoud present?
Yes, Ms. Hammoud on the Zoom.
Okay, Ms. Hammoud, thank you for being here. I've just been informed that because you're not here personally, you can participate as a member of the public, but you can't vote.
Correct.
Here is just being informed of that. But again, I thank you for tuning in. I believe you're out of town. Before we get, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to roll call. Ms. Kangura?
Chair Pinkham?
Yes, I'm here, Fred.
You have a quorum.
Before I move to item B of our agenda, I just want to say I want to thank everyone who is here for being here. Some of you did see some emails back and forth yesterday. My main concern was making sure our personal safety was at issue, making sure that we're taking into consideration. Given this room, I see that it's quite set up for given this situation. So again, I just wanted to make sure we were personally safe, particularly given the spread of this coronavirus and the new variant, the Omicron virus. So I just wanted to make sure we're being safe. Thank everyone for being here. Moving on to the first item, or the second item of our agenda, which is item B, approval of the November 17, 2021 meeting minutes. I believe everyone received a copy of those meeting minutes. If anyone has received a copy, let me know at this time. Everyone has had the opportunity to review those meeting minutes. Take the time to do so now. If you have, the chair will entertain a motion to adopt the meeting minutes from the November 17, 2021 meeting.
Motion to adopt the meeting minutes of December 15th, 2021.
Schaefer, thank you for that, sir.
I'll second that motion.
Second, Mr. Thomas, thank you so much for that, sir. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, so moved. Moving forward to the next item of our agenda, which is item C, unfinished business. Item C, well, we're actually under new business. We have approval of the 2021 year-end report of the Wayne County Ethics Board. That, from the chair, I'm just going to state that that year-end report was taken up at the January 12th, 2022 Subcommittee of the Wayne County Commission on Government Operations. My understanding is it was moved and adopted to be moved to the full whole committee of the body. And my understanding will be presented at that next meeting. So I'm going to address that, and we're going to move forward to the next item of our agenda, which is number 2, approval of the Wayne County Ethics Board's 2022 meeting schedule. I believe Mr. Slezak, I think you mentioned that there was an issue with one of the dates. If you can mention that at this time, sir.
Through the chair, an item 4, I did make a mistake when I said that there was only 1 month where the third Wednesday was unavailable. There actually is a second month. It's September of 2022. The third Wednesday is actually a committee meeting day for the commission. So the second Wednesday, which is the 14th, and the fourth Wednesday, which is the 28th, are both available for whichever the board chooses.
So, sorry, what dates were those again?
Wednesday the 14th and Wednesday the 28th are both available for September.
Any members have any questions as to which date they would like to go with? Thank you so much.
Sure, both dates are acceptable to me. Either date, rather, I should say.
Well, at this point, the chair will go with the November 18th date, if that works for everyone.
No, actually, through the chair, actually, this is
Excuse me,
September.
September 18th. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, actually, yeah, September either 14th or 28th.
Oh, I'm sorry. Within the 14th date works for the chair. All in favor of that date being adopted as the next date for the September meeting? All in favor, move by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, so moved. Thank you, Mr. Slizak. Moving to the next item of our agenda. I think I was looking at the incorrect agenda here, and I apologize for that. I have the correct agenda here. Under new business item D, we're going to move to the approval of the report from the subcommittee to select a new attorney for the Wayne County Ethics Board. Now, many of you know that the subcommittee had been meeting for several weeks. We were selected, the subcommittee was selected with the purpose of selecting a new attorney for the board. As we know, Mr. Williams, our attorney for the board, did pass away unexpectedly this past summer. And we had Mr. Domzo filling in for us. So the Wayne County Ethics Board did choose a subcommittee, appointed subcommittee, myself to chair, as well as members, Mr. Schaefer and Ms. Lewis, to serve as subcommittee members. And we went through a painstaking process to interview candidates, and I believe everyone received a copy of the report that we prepared. As per the rules, the chair will read into the record this report from the subcommittee dated January 5th, 2022. And again, I want to thank Ms. Lewis for her work on this report. Ms. Lewis did serve as the chair, as the clerk of the committee. So the report is as such. The subcommittee on selecting an attorney for the Wayne County Ethics Board respectfully reports the following candidates for consideration. Went through an interview process, attorney interview selection process. The subcommittee selected the 12 potential candidates from the Wayne County outside counsel list provided by Corporation Counsel. Each subcommittee member was assigned 4 attorneys to contact and conduct informational interviews to determine if they meet the selection criteria. If they met the qualifications, we moved to do the interview process with the subcommittee. The Ethics Board selection criteria are as follows. The attorney must have the following experience: advisory board, parliamentary experience, and 15 more years of practicing law. Candidates for consideration: 11/24/2021, interview summary of Mr. Charles Longstreet, Esquire. The subcommittee interviewed Mr. Longstreet on November 24th, 2021 at 9 a.m. The following subcommittee members were in attendance: Mr. Pinkins, chairman; Mr. Schaefer, subcommittee member; and Ms. Lewis, subcommittee member. The meeting was called to order by Mr. Pinkins, and he provided opening remarks with the purpose of the discussion and the responsibilities of this position. Attorney Longstreet has 17 years of law practice and is a sole practitioner with 2 lawyers, part of his practice with 6 years and 1 year of legal experience. Mr. Longstreet has 4 years as a prosecutor. His legal experience, his legal expertise includes handling landlord cases, defending criminals, handling court-appointed cases for Wayne County. And he has represented judges, husbands of judges, and officials out of state. Mr. Longstreet has limited board advisory experience, but has been involved in neighborhood groups and fraternal organizations. Based on the interview, the committee determined the following: the pros, the broad range of practice experience, community involvement, small practice, and can be loyal to boards. Board will be a significant client. Office is located in the city of Detroit. Not afraid to challenge the process and demand respect. The cons: comes from a small firm. Date December 1st, 2021, an interview summary of Deborah Brewer, Esquire. The subcommittee interviewed Ms. Deborah Brewer on December 8th, 2021 at 9 a.m. The following subcommittees were in attendance: Mr. Pinkins, chairman; Mr. Schaefer, subcommittee member; and Ms. Lewis, subcommittee member. The meeting was called to order by Mr. Pinkins, and he provided opening remarks with the purpose of the discussion and the responsibilities of this position. Ms. Brewer has 40 years practicing law and is the owner of a law firm with 13 employees and 8 attorneys. Her case experience includes employment law, harassment, discrimination, and ethics complaints. Also, Ms. Brewer defended Wayne County in a discrimination lawsuit. Ms. Brewer has board advisory experience and sits on nonprofit boards as a member and legal counsel. Based on the interview, the committee determined the following. The pros: former UAW attorney, used to dealing with large organizations, employment-related law experience, familiar with Robert rules, offices in Wayne County, impressive legal background, would command respect. The cons: she's in high demand, low associate will complete partner in law firm concerned work, and concerned with commitment based on current responsibilities. Date 12/8/2021, interview summary of Alan Venable, Esquire. The subcommittee interviewed Mr. Venable on December 8th, 2021 at 9 a.m. The following subcommittees were in attendance: Mr. Pinkins, Chairman, Mr. Schaefer, Subcommittee Member, and Ms. Lewis, Subcommittee Member. The meeting was called to order by Mr. Pinkins, and he provided opening remarks with the purpose of the discussion and responsibilities of this position. Mr. Venable is primarily a litigator with 18 years of legal experience. Early in his career at Bodman, he worked in ethics and complaints and taught business ethics works. He has served on various advisory boards and has helped boards adhere to their standards. Based on the interview, the committee determined the following. The pros: diverse legal experience with ethics and complaints, 18 years of legal experience, small practice, will be loyal, Wayne County will be the primary client. The cons: don't see ability to act independently, relative works with corporation counsel and potential conflict, office is in Oakland County, not as familiar with Robert rules as others. The subcommittee board meeting on December 13, 2021, reviewed the candidates interviewed and decided to present the 3 candidates to the board on January 19, 2022. On January 5th, 2022, the final subcommittee report for the Ethics Board attorney selection was reviewed and approved to submit to the board to vote. Signed, Mr. Pinkins, Mr. Schaefer, Ms. Lewis. Report submitted by Ms. Lewis on January 5th, 2022. Move to formally place the report into record. And all members having received a copy and heard the report, I ask for a motion to adopt the report.
Adopt the report.
All right, the motion on the floor is a motion to adopt the report. At this time, is there a second? All in favor to adopt the report, indicate by saying aye. All opposed, indicate by saying nay. Report is adopted. So moved. At this time, the subcommittees has been dissolved. The purpose of the subcommittee has been being fulfilled. The subcommittee is dissolved at this time. At this time, the chair wants to open up this discussion with respect to the report and the candidates in the report as submitted. So we'll open up the discussion for any members.
I have a couple questions that I
Yes,
would like
Mr.
to
Thomas.
ask. Would this be an appropriate time?
Yes, Mr. Thomas.
I was wondering if we strike up a relationship with one of these individuals, is there a contract that's signed for a lengthy period of time where we would be locked in with them for, let's say, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? Or are they just hired and work for us as long as we feel satisfied with them?
My understanding is there is a contract. We did have a contract with the law firm of Williams Acosta. I believe the contract was for a term of 2 years.
Were there any issues, Mr. Pinkins and the other board, the other committee members, were there any issues regarding the hourly rate or the charges? Were any of these attorneys charging more than others, or is it a rate that the county is going to set irrespective of what they may want?
Yeah, so the rate is set by the county. Rate right now is $200 per hour. Although we did see a few of the attorneys possibly may charge more than that, but everyone had the understanding that the rate is $200 per hour. Each attorney had received and reviewed a copy of what's called the RFP, or the request for a proposal from the county, and it states the terms of the agreement. It also states the hourly rate that they can submit. all the way down to the hourly rate for each paralegal and legal assistant in their law firm.
My final question is the subcommittee going to make a recommendation regarding one of these three individuals? Or how is that going to be done this morning, Mr. Pinkins?
And that's a good question, Mr. Thomas. Thank you so much for that. So what the subcommittee wanted to do was to present these three individuals to the body as a whole, was to look at their qualifications, have some discussion, and place the matter to a vote. So if we'd like to discuss each candidate individually, and then afterwards we can put the matter to a vote if you'd like to do that. Thomas, I'm going to say that because you are pretty much, you weren't on the committee, pretty much the other members here, Mr. Schaefer, Mr. Lewis, are quite familiar with candidates. So we're going to pretty much look to you for your question.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, my question would be this. As you just indicated, I wasn't on the subcommittee, so I've never met these individuals. I feel that in good conscience, I have to accept who the subcommittee recommends as the final candidate. I don't feel that I could look at the three lawyers' qualifications and pros and cons and come up with a independent assessment. So what I'm waiting to hear for is perhaps discussion between the three subcommittee members and a recommendation. That's what I'm going to need, Mr. Pinkins.
All right, so any of the members who served on the subcommittee want to add anything at this time? Schaefer, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Schaefer?
Anything I wish to add at this time? I think the report prepared by Ms. Lewis outlines it.
I'm sorry, through the chair, we can't hear you on Zoom. Can you all hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. Mr. Schaefer, can you speak up just a little longer?
Take my mask off, or should I just speak up louder?
They said you can pull it down.
I believe our recommendation was that Mr. Longstreet was a favored candidate for the reasons set forth in the report, and that's who we would, or at least I was of the understanding we would recommend to the full board as the preferred candidate for the reasons outlined. All the candidates were excellent. We just believed, and I think this is what we discussed in the committee, was that he had certain advantages outlined in the report. So that's who we would recommend.
I would support Mr. Schaefer in that recommendation. I think that we also.
Through the chair, if I may, this is Sue Homo, Deputy Corporation Counsel.
Deputy Corporation Counsel. Well, Ms. Deputy Corporation Counsel, we're going to hold your comment at this time. Ms. Lewis is speaking. Ms. Lewis, you want to say?
Yes, I would definitely support Longstreet as the leading candidate based on our review qualifications, even though Deborah Brewer also has qualifications to the board, but just for recommendations.
All right, so at this time, it seems like there's a recommendation from this committee. Out of the three candidates, this committee, the select committee members, putting forth a recommendation to accept and adopt Attorney Charles Longstreet to serve as the attorney for the board. Correct, I think Mr. Schaefer has put forth that motion. If I'm correct, Mr. Schaefer, correct the chair if he's wrong.
Correct. You've outlined it as I've articulated it.
Steve, if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Lewis has seconded that motion, if I'm correct. Now, at this time, if all in favor of the recommendation, indicate by indicating aye.
Aye.
All opposed, indicate by indicating no. All right, and the ayes have it. So moved. Mr. Charles Longstreet has been selected to serve as the attorney for the Wayne County Ethics Board. Moving on to the next item of
Through
our
the- through the
agenda.
chair.
Through the chair,
Yes, this is
Mahmood from-
Corporation Counsel or Assistant Corporation Counsel. I'm not sure who you are, but you're actually interrupting our meeting at this time. We will
Well,
take
I'm-
public comments a little bit later, but you are interrupting the process of our agenda. Is there something of importance that you wish to discuss?
yes,
Because you are
Mr.
interrupting the agenda of our meeting.
Yes, Mr. Pinkins, I apologize. My intention is not to interrupt. I just wanted to make a point of order that Mr. Longstreet is not on the approved attorney list.
Okay, and Mr. Longstreet, my understanding, has submitted his RFP and is in the process of being placed onto the approved attorney list.
Okay.
Question? Okay. All right, so we're gonna move on. The next item of our agenda, item number number 3 is the advisory opinion request from Swadad. I'm not pronouncing this correct, I apologize. Altamimi. Now, I think some of the members may have received the advisory opinion from Mr. Altamimi. At the time, we had not had an attorney for the board. I know this board has just selected Mr. Longstreet to serve. The chair is going to recommend that we table this matter until Mr. Longstreet is officially in position and can, my understanding is he could take next meeting, he can advise the board with respect to the opinion request from Mr. Is there a motion that we table this matter until the next meeting?
I'll make that motion because to be very candid with you, Mr. Pinkett, I didn't even understand what the request was. And I didn't understand what that acronym in there, HNTB stands for. So I think we need legal advice on that. And perhaps a letter needs to be sent to the individual stating that we need more information.
The motion on the floor is to table this matter until the next meeting. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Lewis. The motion is, there's a motion, it's been seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed indicate by saying no. At this time, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed indicate by saying no. The ayes have it, so moved. Moving on to the next item of our agenda, which is the approval of a correction to the Wayne County Ethics Board's 2022 meeting schedule. Oh, I'm sorry, we already addressed that. All right, so moving on to the next item of our agenda, which is item E, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the board. At this time, are there any other matters that may be properly submitted before this board? Okay, after hearing none, at this time, we're going to move on to item F of our public comments. And before I move on, again, I do want to, and I don't want to belabor this point, but I do want to thank Mr. Schaefer and Ms. Lewis for your hard work. As they know, we met exhaustingly every week in the selection process. We looked at several candidates and went through several resumes. And again, we did meet weekly at the pleasure and courtesy of Ms. Kongora, Mr. Slizak, who provided the tools that we needed for us to meet. So again, I just want to thank everyone who participated on the subcommittee. All right, so moving to item F of the public comments section at this time. Are there any public comments? I know the public right now is via Zoom. So if there are any public comments at this time, we're going to open it up for any public comments. All right, any public comments?
You have a hand from Commission Attorney Felicia Johnson.
Sorry.
We have a hand from Felicia Johnson.
Yes, Ms. Johnson, how are you?
Good morning. I'm well. This is Felicia Johnson, attorney for the County Commission. Just perhaps a point of clarification, and I may need Sue Hamoud from Corporation Counsel to clarify, but I want to make sure that this board leaves this meeting with the proper understanding. So the motion was to select an attorney. However, as indicated, that attorney apparently is not on the approved list. So there still is a county process. So this would be technically a recommendation to the Office of Corporation Counsel to retain this particular attorney If there are any concerns, I'm sure Corporation Counsel will report those concerns back to the board. But I just wanted to make sure that the board understands that there still is that county process. I don't know if the board chairman has had a conversation with Corporation Counsel indicating that they will absolutely accept this recommendation. But again, there's still a county process. The person still has to actually go through the county process, be qualified, which is not guaranteed at this point, to get on that list. Corporation Counsel then still has to do that contract. With regards to the term, and I think Sue would agree with this, I believe there is some flexibility, and that may be one of the points she was trying to get to earlier. With regards to the length of the contract, there is no requirement that there's a 2-year term. Other than that, if Ms. Hammoud wants to weigh in with regards to the protocols of Corporation Counsel, I'll allow her to do so. Chairman, I thank you for this opportunity to make a few clarifications. Thank you.
Let me ask you this question, Ms. Johnson. So what you're saying is that if this board chooses a particular candidate to serve as its attorney for the board, you're telling me that Corporation Counsel can decide that it does not want to accept that candidate? Is that what you're saying?
And again, I don't want to speak for Corporation Counsel, but if you recall, when we first had this discussion about replacing the former attorney, Mr. Williams, there was a discussion that that contract actually goes through Corporation Counsel. And that we talked about what does that process look like? Even when Mr. Williams was selected, that ultimate decision was still up to Corp Counsel. Again, I don't know what conversations you may have had with Corporation Counsel on the side, but just wanted to clarify that, again, the county still has to actually approve the individual to be on the list. If they have not vetted the individual to be on that list, then there's still a county process that needs to occur. And again, I'm gonna stop talking on behalf of Corporation Counsel because they may be, because I don't want to speak for them, but I definitely didn't want to leave here because even saying that you approve this person as if they were guaranteed the contract was even not consistent with the original conversation when this board talked about replacing Mr. Williams. But again, Ms. Hammoud is online. She can definitely allow you and speak to exactly what Corporation Counsel's process will be and any other concerns she may have, or she'll bring those to you at this point or some later time.
Just for the record, from the chair, I just wanted to state too, when Mr. Williams was selected, there was no discussion with Corporation Counsel, nor was this board ever advised that the Corporation Counsel would be the final selection. My understanding is that there was a list of attorneys who approved Mr. Williams, just happened to already be on that list, and we did select him. There was a prior Corporation Counsel. We did not have the current Corporation Counsel at that time, so I'm not. This chair had no discussions with the Corporation Counsel, and I did not. I was unaware that there was a process where the Corporation Counsel came into. Second to who this board chose, or to accept it or not accept who this board chose to serve as this attorney for the board. Because as noted, when I became chairman of this board, there was no attorney for the board. In fact, Corporation Counsel served as the attorney for this board, which was actually contrary to what the ethics ordinance called for. The ethics ordinance and the statute states that this board is to have its own independent attorney. Instead of that happening, Corporation Counsel was serving as the attorney for this board. Corporation Counsel was also defending and representing any complainant that was the recipient of a person that was the recipient of the complaint who was within the county. They was also defending and representing the person who was the recipient of the complaint. I did note that I felt that was a conflict of interest. The prior Corporation Counsel did note that she was not going to ever do that again. She was going to recuse from any further representation of any future recipients of any complaints. And that was duly noted. And she did state that they would no longer be representing the board as the attorney for the board. So I just want to make sure and state that on the record. I was unaware that Corporation Counsel was to have a sort of hand or some sort of consent to who this board selected to serve as the independent attorney for this board.
Chairman.
With that said, we will, we did note your comments, Ms.
Just to clarify from a legal perspective, legally, via the charter and law, Corporation Counsel is the actual attorney for the board. Corporation Counsel made a determination that there was a conflict and they stepped back, but they are technically the legal representative, and that's why the contract goes through their office. Because by charter, they would represent this board, but because they just determined there's a conflict.
Okay, I understand that, but the ethics ordinance does say that this board is to have an attorney, an independent attorney for the board. I'm not sure if the Corporation Counsel is an independent attorney, and surely the ethics ordinance does say that a recipient of a complaint is allowed legal representation at their own expense. Now, a Corporation Counsel is representing the recipient of a complaint, particularly on a daytime if we're having a hearing on that complaint. Corporation Counsel is paid for by the taxpayers, if I'm not mistaken. So therefore, that recipient of that complaint is not paying at their own expense. In fact, the taxpayers would have been paying. And that's what Corporation Counsel was doing. That is direct contradiction and a conflict of what the ethics ordinance say. Chair is just stating this for the record. I did note that what you did mention, I do see Mr. Thomas has his hands up, so I'm going to let Mr. Thomas make a comment. Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Pinkins, did I hear the speaker on the other end of the line say that Ms. Hammoud was present on the line also?
I think this is Ms. Sue Hammoud, I believe.
Ms. Sue Hammoud?
Yes.
Well, I know of Ms. Hammoud. She may not remember, but I've worked on a matter or two with her in the past. I don't know her personally, but what I would say is this board doesn't have counsel right now. We're in the process of reviewing the ethics ordinance so that we could make recommendations to the Wayne County Commission as to what type of changes should be made, what type of updating should be done to make our job more effective and to make the ethics ordinance more effective. We had today a request for an advisory opinion. We are unable to act on it, and we're unable to act on it, as I understand it, because we don't have a lawyer who can write back and forth with this individual who requested the ethics opinion. We need a lawyer, and I would say that I think that it is in the public's best interest, it's in the board's best interest, it's in the county commissioner's best interest to put whatever wheels in motion have to be put in motion so that we can get counsel on board. Avery Williams, I had great respect for him. He did a great job. It's going to be tough getting somebody to fill his shoes. We're all going to have to get acclimated to a new lawyer. I would just ask Ms. Hammoud what type of time frame we're looking at to get the attorney we're recommending approved by the Board of Commissioners. I would hope that all that could be done by our next meeting, if not before. Maybe if we brought a lawyer on before, maybe they could send out a letter to the individual who requested the ethics opinion and say, look, we need more information. This is a very unfortunate situation that results from a very loyal, dedicated attorney's premature death. Nobody saw it happening, but we need counsel. Ms. Hammoud.
Thank you for that, Mr. Thomas. Yes, Ms. Hammoud.
Good morning. Mr. Thomas, Corporation Counsel is very well aware that you need counsel, and we're not standing in the way of the Ethics Board retaining counsel. As Ms. Johnson pointed out, yes, by charter, Corporation Counsel is the attorney to the Ethics Board. We recognize that there is a conflict of interest, and therefore the board needs to get outside counsel outside of Corporation Counsel. That being said, as was discussed, I believe at several board meetings, that the counsel selected by this board must be on Corporation Counsel's approved list. If you select an attorney, and two of the attorneys that were interviewed by this committee are on the approved list, if you selected one of those attorneys, they can begin working for you, as soon as possible, because the only thing we got to do is get the contract in place then. But because this board has chosen to select an attorney that is not on the approved vendor list for the county, we have to wait for them to get on that list if they are able to get on that list. That is all the point that I was trying to make earlier before you voted on your attorney, to make the comment that the attorney that you are selecting is not an attorney on the approved vendor list. and he was somebody who would have to get on the list before we can engage in a contract. But Corporation Counsel is certainly amenable to any attorney that this board selects to represent them, with the one condition, the one caveat, and this is not a Corporation Counsel stipulation, this is a county stipulation, that they must be on the county's approved vendor list.
Thank you for Ms. Hammoud. And it's my understanding, because this chair did have conversations with Corporation Counsel, I believe, about before we started this process, actually at the end of the summer 2021, and Mr. Heath did contact me, and I asked Mr. Heath, what is the process for attorneys not on the list? Mr. Heath explained to me it's just a paper process. That's what this chair was told. My understanding is the RFP is supposed to be submitted along with the attorney's information regarding his law practice and insurance, liability insurance and whatnot. That is what was explained to me. I was not under the impression from Mr. Heath that there was a long, arduous process that needed to be taken place that would require a lengthy time. He said it was a paper process. My understanding, when we started the selection process, when the subcommittee was appointed, we did mention whether or not we had to stay within the confines of the approved attorney list, or could we go outside the attorney list? And it was noted we could go outside the attorney list so long as those attorneys submitted the paperwork to join the list if they were not already on the list. And again, this chair's understanding was that was just a paper process. In fact, I believe in speaking to Mr. Longstreet, and I think a few others, the RFP information was sent to them, and I believe they did fill out the documentation and submitted it before the interview process. So my understanding is all the paperwork was already submitted from Mr. Longstreet to Corporation Counsel, all of his liability insurance, the RFP paperwork, and the terms and agreement of any contracts and whatnot with the county. So my understanding is all of that has already been submitted. That was back in, I believe, October, November. So we're in January. If you're telling me that there's still a further process that needs to take place, then state so. And again, Ms. Hammoud, if you can still clarify how much longer do you think that process would take?
Mr. Pinkins, sure. I mean, there is a process, and it's like the qualification process, but just because you submit the paperwork does not mean that you're going to be qualified. I am not part of the RFQ committee, obviously for obvious reasons. So I don't know the status of Mr. Longstreet's application process. I don't know if he was approved. I don't know if he was rejected. I don't know what the status of that is. I do know that the last list that I have came out on December 22nd. The last approved council list came out on December 22nd, which tells me that there was an RFQ meeting in December, and that Mr. Longstreet was not part of that approved list. And that's what I can represent to this board today.
Let me just ask you this further, and I know that you don't want to speak too much on this topic, but what would disqualify an attorney from the process? Then, if you can tell me that, then what is the approval process? Then what qualifications? Because again, my understanding from Corporation Counsel is it was a paper process. I understand what you're saying, that well, they have to be approved. What would get them rejected?
That is all part of the county's procurement ordinance. I mean, it's not, I'm not on the RFQ committee, so I couldn't tell this board what it is that the committee looks at and what the qualifications are.
There's an RFP committee. I'm sorry, there's
yes.
an RFP committee now.
Yes. Yes.
So there's a whole committee that needs to determine. Then
yes.
It's not a paper process. There's a committee that looks at it.
Right. Once the paperwork is submitted, the committee goes through to make sure that all the paperwork is in accordance with the county's qualifications. Yes.
Mr. Pinkins?
Yes, Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Pinkins, Ms. Lewis just was kind enough to provide me Mr. Longstreet's phone number. With the permission of the chair, I can step outside in the hall and I can make a call to his office. Assuming he's there, I may be able to find out whether he submitted that paperwork or not. I think this matter has to be moved along. And I think we need the cooperation of Corp Counsel, the Board of Commissioners, and anybody else that can help us get council on board.
Good question, Mr. Thomas, and thanks for offering to do that, Mr. Thomas. And
Would you like me to do
since you
that?
did state that, what this chair is going to do is we'll take a brief recess
Okay.
and then we'll get to this matter. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. We are now in recess. Thank you.
Yes.
Brief recess. We're gonna go back on the record. The time now is 10:05. We went on to a recess to look into, after item F of our public comments, went on to recess to see if we can reach out to the new selected attorney for the board, Mr. Charles Longstreet, to see if we could ascertain whether or not he had submitted all of the proper paperwork to the county to be placed on the approved list of attorneys that the county has. Mr. Thomas did indicate and inform the chair that he did reach out to Mr. Longstreet and left messages. However, we have not been able to contact him at this time. So my understanding is we're looking to table this matter. And if there's a motion to table this matter until our next meeting, until we can hear back from Mr. Longstreet or take some sort of, we'll entertain that motion. So we need a motion.
That motion.
Thomas, thank you for that. So the motion at this time is to table the matter with respect to not the selection of Mr. Longstreet, but with respect to the approval process of Mr. Longstreet being placed onto the Wayne County approved attorney list. Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, indicate by saying no. The ayes have it, so moved. All right, we're still on public comments. If there are any further public comments at this time, we're gonna entertain those at this time. There are none. We're gonna move on to the last item of our agenda, which is G, the adjournment. At this time, is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Ms. Lewis has seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed indicate by no. The ayes have it. We are so adjourned. This body is adjourned to February. I believe the next meeting is February 14th.
Through the chair, it's February 16th.
All right, February
9
16th,
a.m.
2022 at 9 a.m. Thank you so much, everyone.
Jenkins, if I hear from Mr. Longstreet.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Thank you.